It is official. Brendan Shanahan is out as team president of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Nick Alberga, Zack Phillips here with you to break things down. Are you shocked, Zach? I'm not.
No, not at all. The funny thing, like we knew there was a MLSE board meeting that was scheduled for today's Thursday, and Wednesday it comes out that the Maple Leafs grant Brendan Shanahan permission to speak to the Islanders, and it's like, uh, okay, well, I guess we know what's coming on Thursday. So if you weren't expecting that by Wednesday, you should have been pretty prepared for this Thursday news that Shanahan was going to be uh, I don't know if you can call it fired. There's going to be some people who say he wasn't fired. He was just wasn't renewed,
Well,
but
hey, I wanted to bring that
he's
up. I
gone.
think the wording is integral to me. All they said they weren't renewing his contract, not fired, no parting of ways. What did you make of that?
I don't know. That to me, I don't know. I'm just going to give you a shitty answer. That means he was fired. That means they did not want his services or his whatever he could bring to the table anymore. They did not feel that it was going to help them win or get closer to helping them win, and felt that it was time to move on. To me, it means he was fired. Remember we dealt with that when the Dubas thing happened? People were in
Yeah.
my DMs like, he wasn't fired. They they parted ways. I'm like, yeah, your girlfriend didn't break up with you. You both decided to move on. That's what happened.
Yeah, and he penned a letter really, really quickly following the announcement. Like jokes aside, I think he probably knew this was coming for a couple days, and we all saw his reaction and face during Game 7, that disappointing loss to the Florida Panthers. I think the writing was on the wall. But you're so right, and Rosie brought it up on Leafs Morning Take that you pretty much grant another team permission to talk to the guy. You know, sort of if you're Shanahan, the writing's on the wall. But let's call a spade, man. Long time coming, at least for me. Probably 3, 4 years too late, in my opinion. I thought Shanahan lost sight of the plot and how you need to play to have success in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And ultimately, it is a results oriented business. We're going to get to the nice part. I thought the Maple Leafs did a good job of applauding his efforts off the ice and what he put forth in the community and with the alumni, association as well. But two series victories, Zach, in 11 years. It's a results oriented business. And I think it was the right move to move on here.
Yeah, look, there was a lot of stuff that he did here, part of this team, that goes beyond what he did on the ice. So, first of all, I think that was a good point by you to be brought up, and a good job by the Maple Leafs to address that. You look at the traditions, you even look at uniforms and logos and slogans and all that stuff. I think they did a very, very good job while he was here, and he took that, very seriously, and I think he did a really good job with that. So I think he deserves to be commended. But there is the other part, and it was the on ice stuff. And there are parts of this that were a success, as pointed out by people online. Some of that may have been luck or actually you sucking that got you those things. You
True.
know, you look at some of the draft positions that you got and the selections that you made. And yeah, there's an element of luck with those things. You could have lost the Austin Matthews draft and been second and picked Patrick Laine. Like those things could have happened, but you made the right selections with what you did. The thing that I think you said there that is a very big indictment on his time here is the too little, too late. There are two very separate or defined segments of his time in Toronto. And I think one of the things that's been pointed out a lot is people kind of coming to his defense, but having to point out, oh, he didn't make all the decisions, but that happened under Tree Living. Well, okay, so that means he was very heavily involved when Kyle Dubas was here. And I think that was the period of hockey that we all deemed as maybe the farthest they had been from success, because we look at the Brad Treliving era and the way the team was shaped and built and constructed, and where they've put the focal point of back out goaltending, defense, building up forward. That was under Treliving. So Shanahan had his hands off during that. And that is kind of the point where it looks like to me, he looked at it and went, I got 2 years left under my contract here. This has not worked. This has basically been an utter failure. Kyle is now gone. It's time for this thing to change. And it went to Tree Living. And at that point, as you said, like it was just too late. It was far too late. I don't think there was enough time for the new general manager in this evaluation period to kind of flip things around and make the changes necessary. You also look at some of the timing of some of those things. Full no moves kicked in. I think Brad Treliving was brought in right before the Mitch Marner No trade clauses, no move clauses kicked in. Like if he was going to make a trade, it was going to have to be snappy. It was going to have to be rushed. A lot of it was just too little, too late, and some of the realizations in the Shanahan era.
I echo those sentiments. Ultimately, how will I look back at the Shanahan era? A missed opportunity to strike and win a Stanley Cup and bring Lord Stanley home for the first time since 1967. Just oozing with talent the last decade. And man, 11 years with all those star players and all those opportunities, and you have two playoff series victories. Like they didn't even sniff Lord Stanley. That's what gets me going. And again, the writing's been on the wall for years, in my opinion. It's not like this is a shocker. People were talking about this 5 years ago, Zach.
Yeah, one of the things that I think is important to acknowledge here is how well that he did transition this from the rebuild to these guys being ready to go. Like I look at the Ottawa Senators, their GM came out 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and declared their rebuild was over, and then 4 years later they make the playoffs for the first time. You look at the Maple Leafs and the young guys that get brought in here. Boom, immediately they make it. But I mean, to your point, and kind of just addressing this and the failures and the talent that was brought here, they did a great job of bringing it in. I think one of the biggest things that happened was a failure to acknowledge what wasn't working, and whether you want to call it a sense of urgency or just awareness that these things needed to change, they failed to do so. And Shanahan was very stuck in his ways. I agree with you. I think that this is something that should have been acknowledged by the people above him a long time ago, that there wasn't a willingness to change. But, I think one of the things here, Nick, and I'm curious your thoughts on this. One of the big things that we're going to walk away from this, and people who were involved may be proud of it. I don't know that people who watched it every single day will be that proud, but loyalty. We talked about Tannenbaum was a big fan of Brendan Shanahan's. Well, Brendan Shanahan was a big fan of Mitch Marner, William Nylander, John Tavares, Austin Matthews, Morgan Riley. Like there was a refusal from him to get rid of those guys, and there was a refusal of Tannenbaum to get rid of Shanahan, which just kept this country club atmosphere, if you want to call it. I got your back, you got mine. We all stay together. We're all here no matter what. And obviously, Keith Pelly came in and just decided enough of that.
Yeah, I love that. And just to wrap, I credit Keith Pelly for putting his money where his mouth is, first and foremost. And I agree with you.
Mhm.
The culture's been dog shit for years. And I think it's time to flip things. Brad Treliving was brought in. He started sort of this new journey. And then Craig Berube. And the first domino has fallen. Brendan Shanahan out as team president of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Nick, before you wrap this up here, I want to ask you and get your thoughts, and then I want people who watch this video to drop theirs in the comments. What do you predict or project the next steps would be? Because, and I'll put it to you this way: there are so many hands in the pot right now. There are so many people. If you were to go and actually chart out who does what in
Good
this
luck.
organization, there are people who probably are just they're
Making
being
coffee in the
paid.
press box.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like, but that guy has some title, and like, hey, credit to them, they make this whole thing tick. It is a massive organization, but there are so many people. Do you think there's a new president who comes in here? Do you think that they are a hockey ops person? Is it somebody whose business? Is it like, is it Tree Living who moves up? Are these people going out? Like, what do you think next steps are going to be? Just if you could kind of even quickly predict, and people in the comments, what do you think is going to happen, and what do you want to happen? Maybe more specifically.
I'm trying to remember who started this shit, and we talked about it on Leafs Morning Take the other day. We grew up, me and Rosie, we grew up in an era where Pat Quinn was the GM and head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and
Yeah, yeah.
now there's presidents. Like I can't wait till the next job above the president, and maybe that's Keith Pelly. But my prediction is that we don't see anybody hired, and it's Brad Treliving indirectly given the job. Unfortunately for him, I don't think his title changes. I still think he's the
Mm.
general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs, but he assumes that directive, that strategy, that role. How about you?
I I do think so as well. I personally would do that. I think he's done a really good job. I think his vision for this team has been really good. Is there mistakes along the way? Sure. I mean, look at every GM. I'm pretty
Hmm.
sure every one of them walks away and says, "Yeah, I shouldn't have signed that guy to that contract or made that trade or whatever." I think he's done a really good job. I think the overall outlook has been good. It's been pretty well noted here that since he joined, it's been mostly him enacting this vision. I think he probably moves up here. If he moves up and someone else comes in, that would be a little bit surprising to me,
Yeah.
unless they just elevated people within these roles,
Yeah.
kind of like you've said before, and Pridham goes up. But I can't see them bringing in all these new people and that kind of stuff. I think it would be the same.
Yeah, in fact, I think it's going to be opposite. I think there's going to be a lot of streamlining and a lot of purging of these roles because you're so right. And this is across the NHL. There's a lot of people who have roles like, what do you do on a daily basis, minute by minute, hour by hour? Nobody has an answer to that. But the beat goes on here in Toronto, not even a week removed from losing Game 7 to the Florida Panthers, and the first domino has fallen on the offseason. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Roseau. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.